Welcome to the podcast. Súbele volumen. Conversation with the people who were with me. In the world TV. Carlos tonight. Historias de un reportero. Carlos tonight. Dale que viene lo bueno.
Bienvenidos and welcome to another exciting episode of Carlos Tonight. This week, I want to introduce you to the creator of the internationally recognized comic book series, El Peso Hero, a character who uses his forces of good to help those along the U.S.-Mexico border. Hector Rodriguez III, welcome to the podcast. Hey, how are you?
Hey, thanks for having me, Carlos. Thank you. An honor, un honor.
It's good to see you and finally meet you.
Yeah, likewise, man. Yeah, you've been making waves.
Yeah.
I saw that interview with Havoc, the luchador from San Diego, right?
Oh, yeah, cool.
Yeah.
So you're a busy person, and you're not only the comic book creator, but you're also an educator, and then you're also the founder of the Texas Latino Comic Con, which, by the way, I went to 2 years ago with my nephew.
Oh, wow.
And It was amazing. We did cosplaying. He entered a contest, and he ended up winning, I think, second place.
Oh, nice. What was he? I'm trying to recall.
He was the Joker, but the video game version.
Yes, awesome.
Yeah, and I was like the Latino Spock.
Oh, yes, I remember. Yes.
Cool.
That's awesome.
So, my first question is, where did your love for comics start?
Well, I grew up in the border, and really cool thing about the border is that it's such a bridge between cultures and worlds, and so I had definitely had the privilege of consuming the entertainment medium in Mexico and in the States, and so my love for comic books, comes from las historietas, as well as my father being a fan of Sergeant Rock. He was veteran military, and so he brought in home Mad magazines once he came back. Yes, and so Sergio Aragonés, great Latino Spanish Mexican artist, and so yeah, I mean, just early geek stuff, man. And so like, in growing up watching lucha, El Santo Tinieblas, Blue Demon, Mil Máscaras, being part of that world as well, and being a fan of American comic books too.
Yeah. Did you have a favorite character growing up? And if so, have they inspired what you do today?
Well, I would have to say that, I like to say El Santo, is El Mascarado de Plata, watching him with, maybe it's just that something about those greater than life characters that you were able to feel and meet up. And they not also that, but El Santo was was the first luchador to actually cross from lucha to film, and he lived that persona, and so I had that too. And within comic books, I love Todd McFarlane's Spawn, just because it had that grit, that realness. You're say African American protagonist, front and center cover, as Spawn.
So tell me the moment you created El Peso Hero.
Well, for me, I grew up in the border, but it was my dad being an Aggie for Texas A&M University. We moved from the border to Central Texas to College Station, and so to me that world was a culture shock. And yeah, I mean, one positive thing is that I had each Friday my father took us to comic book stores. In the border, there weren't any comic book stores.
Yeah.
I mean, you would have to go to your VHS rental mom and pop place, and they had the baseball cards, and they had maybe the comic books on the side, and so that was it for me. But going to an actual comic book store was a whole different experience. I was a kid in the candy store, but that lack of representation wasn't there. One of the things that I love about some of the just the Latino cinema was that, you had heroes that spoke your language, ate your own foods. When was the last time you saw Batman eat empanadas or menudo
Right.
pozole? And so to me, yeah, I long for that representation, seeing my culture front and center, seeing my language, uh, and my family, is of all shades, and so seeing a brown superhero there, it's something so uplifting, inspiring, and so yes, it wasn't until 2003 that I had one of the initial um, lights flicker or flame to create a Peso Hero, visiting my grandparents in the border and hearing some of those myths, rumors, and some of the crime stories, and you know, wanting somebody to stand up and defend the border. And so I was like, "Whoa, I'll just do it myself." Creating a Peso
Nice.
Hero.
That's awesome. Do you ever get the opportunity to talk to folks and get what their reaction to your comic book? Like, what's it like?
Yes, it's it's been I it's been a very interesting experience. Within Latino community, 100% on board. I'm very thankful. All the, very blessed that the community, our community, has been supporting me. Um, and so yeah, I mean, within the mainstream comic book industry, you get like, oh, why does he speak Spanish?
Right.
They don't really quite get him, and so this was 2011, and I started doing comic book conventions. El Peso Hero started as a webcomic July 27, 2011. Which will be about 10 years tomorrow.
Mhm.
And so it's a webcomic, and that feedback's been, yeah, I mean, it's, I have fans that are from both political, philosophical sides, and they do understand the need, uh, for border security, or the border trauma, having border patrol agents that are fans, seeing the real world um, realities of both sides, right? Just
Mhm.
that moral gray ambiguity that exists when the comic books exist in the
Mhm.
border. And then yes, then you have the super humanitarian el justiciero defending the migrant families crossing the border
Mhm.
too as well. Yearning for that new life, and wanting to be part of something greater than themselves.
Tell us a little bit about the main character, Ignacio Rivera, right?
Right, Ignacio Rivera, very humble. Or I'll say, it's with Ignacio. He's very humble, and so um, one of the great things that I have him, as you can see right here, he wears a white shirt, blue jeans, uh, boots, like a norteño, Southwest Texas. I grew up wearing boots, and my tío, he looks like a tío. He looks like my tío. Like a lot of my students' parents, farm workers are jornaleros.
Mhm.
Migrant workers. Yeah, just very simple. Ignacio Rivera could be anybody in your family.
Mhm.
It could be your abuelita, white shirt, blue jeans, cowboy boots. That's all it takes. Heed the calling. Be a superhero. And so you have a lot of that's the very essence, right? And so without digging too much of the story, I used to watch a lot of Mexican soap operas, a lot of novelas, either from Colombia, Venezuela, Mexico, and so the twists and turns, the characters, that drama, influenced the pages of El Paso Hero.
Do you remember a telenovela called Stefania from a long time
Oh
ago?
man, you sound familiar, yeah, but
Yeah.
it's wait. Oh, gosh. Was it like mid 90s?
I think it was like 80s because I remember my parents would take me to their like friend's house and they would all watch this telenovela and I got
Oh man,
sucked into it. I'm like, oh, this is great. I've never
oh
seen
man.
another one
Yeah, see,
after
for me, it was like late 80s, early 90s. My mom used to watch Cuna de Lobos, the
that.
the matriarch of the family being like a villain scheming and such. And so that's one of the influences that I have as one of the villains in my story, as well as Maria Felix.
Gotcha. So your character Ignacio Rivera, was he created based on someone you knew?
Um, it's interesting because it's in order for me to write well, I do have to dig into a lot of my own personal experiences. Living the border, uh, being in Mexico, and it would not be an authentic character if I don't have a little bit of myself in Ignacio,
Mhm.
right? And as well as some of the very universal themes as well, specifically surrounding immigration, which is not just exclusive to United States and Mexico.
Mhm.
It's something that is a human experience for hundreds of thousands of years.
All right. I'm talking with Hector Rodriguez III, the creator of El Peso Hero, a comic book series that takes place along the US-Mexico border. Tell us a little bit about the adventures that your main character, Ignacio Rivera, gets involved with.
Well, yes, it's I have within, we're basically we have 12 books, right? 12 of the Puzzle Heroes books, and so we are releasing the big collection omnibus. And so, I do have the main story arc of El Peso Hero, and it's very drama heavy, very character driven. And I do have I've had specific moments in time where I had to pause and tell a story that is more of a depiction of current events
Mhm.
or something that I've actually have written before that needs to come to light. For example, El Puzzle Hero Borderland, where El Puzzle Hero breaks into a detention facility. And within these pages, originally, it was Ignacio rescuing uh, migrants, refugees,
Mhm.
right? And so, and unfortunately, I had to make some writing changes, and instead of adults, it needed to be children,
Mhm.
just to reflect of the dire reality. I
Yeah.
mean, we're talking about 2018. I mean, even now, come on, I mean, let's not kid ourselves.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
bet that hit home for a lot of people.
yes, it did. It did. It was a very emotional book, and one of the stories, Pussy Hero voter stories. I've had I have the privilege where pre-COVID I visited a lot of schools. I was in a school in Austin, and one of the fifth grade students there made a personal connection. Let me see if I can share with you. Nope, I got it right. Yep, made I made a personal connection to one of the cover for
Mhm.
as your voter stories, and and she was in tears because she's never seen a comic book, a piece of literature that really spoke to her, that from her own experiences crossing
Wow.
as being 5 years old with her mom, just them two by themselves crossing the Rio Grande. And it was very impactful, very personal, brought a lot of feelings. And it was, and for me, it was such a humbling experience as the creator, writer, that, you know, eh, maybe within these pages, she's able to, feel a connection that her story, her journey is being shared with the world.
That's awesome that you're able to provide that to kids who sometimes may have not seen a comic book or anything like that. That's awesome. Congratulations, by the way. You said 10 years? More than 10 years?
Yes, 10 years.
10 years. Big milestone. How are you going to celebrate?
Well, we launched a very successful crowdfunding campaign in May for the anniversary collection, and so it really, um, it's something just for the heart, just the hardcore fans, and so we're very humble that we have a following, and as well as, we're looking for that. It's 10 years to finish a story arc.
Yeah.
Yeah, nine books. Actually, take that back. 12 books. Yeah,
Mhm.
12 books. You finish
And
a
it's your
story arc,
baby.
right? Yeah, and so and and so everybody's excited for that, and one thing that I do, I am very lucky to blessed that I have a team and an artistic team with me now. I have a Chema from Mexico, a Guillermo from Argentina, a lot of support from different artists, different cover artists, from all walks of life. And yeah, they just feel connected to Ignacio, to El Paso Hero. And so, and we're looking forward to telling more El Paso Hero stories.
Where did you get the
Uh,
name, by the way?
Peso Hero, it's Spanglish, and
Mhm.
Peso a hero. And so, uh, one of the stories behind the name, the moniker, is that the Border Patrol agents were belittling his heroics. Well, in Mexico, he's known as El Toro Pesado, like the myth, the legend, kind of like the mito. And so in the States, across the border, they started calling him El Peso Hero because his heroics are what they devalued peso. And so kind of like it put them belittling him, but that moniker catches on, right?
Mhm.
Like wildfire. And Ignacio takes it on. Yes, I am El Peso Hero, you know. And so it's just something that evolves.
That reminds me, I was watching an episode of Superman and Lois on the CW,
Yes.
and they had like what is it? Like a moment like that where you just described, where Lois is like, "What's your name?" and he's like, "Whatever you come up with, or the media comes up with." And then he flew off, and then another stranger comes and says, "Who was that guy?" And she goes, "Oh, Superman." So that's pretty cool.
Exactly.
So I read somewhere that your comic book may be turning into a feature film.
Correct.
Tell me if
Yes.
that's true, and if so, what can you share?
Yes. No, definitely. Within the span of 10 years, I've had moments where I've had interested parties in creating, bringing El Peso Hero, the story of Ignacio, to the bigger screen, to the larger screen. And we were always looking for the right partner, something that really get the world, get the character
Mhm.
sense. And, because it's something that's, me, myself being indie, being independent, I've always been very protective, because I do have friends that work within the mainstream comic book industry, and some of the challenges that comes around with, creativity. Do you really own the character, or, is it borrowed?
Right.
And so, um, like you said, this is, yeah, kind of like my baby, right? And so
Hmm.
I've always been very protective of who I share the world with Ignacio. But it was 2019. I had a email from Javier Chapa, somebody from El Paso,
Hmm.
Tejano, Chicano, and making waves in Burbank, California. And so they've been following El Paso Hero, and so they thought it was a great time to connect and see what we can do. And so before you know it, we've had some really great talent being attached, as the producers as well. One of the big names, Eli Roth, as well as Jay Hernandez. Seeing some of the stories gravitating, being gripping, and yeah, I mean, it's so it's. I mean, what could I say? It's like it's a neo western Sicario meets Logan. And it's something that you really at it's something that we would love to bring to the world, and share. And so right now, currently we are in pre-production, trying to get our gearings back from COVID. You know how COVID definitely changed the world, and so it changed that industry,
Oh yeah.
you know, for the better or the worse. And so we're adapting, and so we'll have some news. You know, I do have some things that I hold back too. I don't know what to share.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Fortunately, something I really want to share, but yeah, just check out social media.
Mhm.
You know,
That's
and
exciting
so
news. I can't
yeah,
wait.
yeah, it's an honor. Yeah, it's and we'll see. You know, I'm cautiously optimistic. You never know. The world is always changing.
Right. Absolutely. Cool. I'm talking with Hector Rodriguez III, the creator of El Peso Hero, a comic book series that takes place along the U.S.-Mexico border. Hector, I mentioned earlier that you also created the Texas Latino Comic Con. First, thank you. And second, tell us how the convention was born.
Yes, and so you know, myself, I have to say, I have to give credit where credit is due. You know, being I'm a co-founder, you
Co-founder.
know, and so um, my other partner is David Dow, and so you know, the idea comes from the need for having these events, you know, and so we got Primos in California too that do the Latino Comics Expo
Mhm.
as well. You know, Ricardo Padilla, Javier Hernandez, creator of El Muerto. And so, you know, it's something that I always, we always need something like Latino Comics Expo, right? And so, you know, after some conversations um, with Javier, it's like, Javier, Hector, just create your own, man. It's like, you know, have come over here, you know, we have the talent, like, man, just go ahead and do it, man. You got my blessing, just make it. And I'm like, all right. And so that was 2014. You know, after you know, some challenges, you know, trying to connect with some partners and forth and so on, trying to find a venue. It was 2017 that I came back from the Brown and Black Comics Expo by Professor Pedro Aldama, his show in Ohio, Columbus. Now, also known as Profe X, he is currently in Austin, and but you know, came back and I was, you know, hanging out with my colleagues, comic book colleagues, and David Dow. He comes from an experience of doing conventions. He, you know, helped run the Anime Expo, Mini Acon as well, and so he's had the logistical know-how to bring these up, right? And
Mhm.
so basically, we brought in my network, my creative network, the Peso Hero, and with David's know-how of building these things logistically up. We both we try to bring these. You know, we reached out different places in Dallas, and so and then the cultural Latino Culture Arts Center
Mhm.
in downtown Dallas. You know, uh, s- became our home,
Awesome.
and so it's been such an amazing experience. I know that been getting a lot of questions. You know, when is the next one? Yes, we will have one this year, but it will be virtually.
Gotcha.
And so, and look forward. You know, I'll give you an exclusive, Carlos. Look forward to Halloween time, the last weekend of October, and so it's going to be a very special Latino Comics Expo celebrating Halloween and Dia de los Muertos.
Awesome.
So virtually, you know, for everybody to see.
We love exclusives here on Carlos Tonight. So 2 years ago, I took my nephew Michael to Comic Con in San Diego, and I swear his head was gonna explode. And so he came to spend the rest of the summer here in the DFW area. And I was looking for things to do, and that's when I found you guys, and we decided to go, and we just had a blast. So again, to you and your co-creators, thank you so much. I love that event, and I look forward to the virtual one.
Yes, thank you. And so I say that, you know, hopefully, God willing, that next year we'll be back in person.
Cool. Look forward to that. Do you see the Texas Latino Comic Con getting bigger over time?
I said it's something that it's been very organic
Hmm.
evolution, and it's something that we don't want to. This is where I'm a very ambitious creator, and this is where David helps me out. We're going back with that slow organic build, and so that's our route. It being organic. And it'll come in flows, and so and for me, yeah, maybe one day it'll be a road show. I would love to go to Houston, San Antonio, Austin. It is the Texas Latino Comic Con after all.
Hmm. So tell us, prior to COVID, what did people experience at the Texas Latino Comic Con?
Well, yeah, it's something such an amazing experience to see these, this world of storytellers, of writers and artists sharing their own stories, sharing their worlds, and it's so empowering seeing um, that representation, you know, across. We do focus on, Texan artists and writers, but we do bring creators and artists from across the states. Either from California, even from some Mexico too, as well. Um, and so we go out of state too, just to bring some of that cultural flavor in.
And Hector, you mentioned you were a teacher. This next question, and it's my final question, is what piece of advice can you give to young people out there who may be interested in doing something like what you're doing, pursuing comic books?
Well, it's something that when it comes to the arts, it's very important for you to be a ferocious reader of different content, as well as making sure that you have.
Oh, we lost Hector. Hopefully he'll come back in a minute. We'll see what happens here. There we go.
You can restate the question, then we could.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Hector, what's one piece of advice that you can give to young people who want to do what you do in creating their own comic book characters?
Yes, most definitely. One of the things that I do um, share is that be a ferocious reader of content across all sorts of books. Is making sure that you're building that background of different worlds. As also when it comes to art, make sure that you have your fundamentals down. And it's very important to learn the craft. Figure drawing, perspective, color. Um, and there's no better place to learn all those like I did than in school.
Right.
Now, first of all, it's free, and there's some really amazing educators out there with a love with that, and so, and as well as reaching out to the artistic community and share your work. Because the art, sequential art, is very specific, and it's something that you need to dedicate a lot of time and study, and you need have to have that passion and love. That includes either Western sequential or Eastern, like manga. Uh, all forms are amazing, and so I recommend just to read the crafts, study, and yeah, just read as much as you can. All
And
sorts
where
of stories. There's amazing stories out there.
can people reach out to you on social media?
Oh yes, most definitely. You can reach me at elpesohero.com. You can also go to riobravocomics.com as well as our Instagram at El Peso Hero. Um, you can email me at riobravocomics at gmail.com as well.
Awesome. Hector Rodriguez III, thank you so much. You're an inspiration, and you're welcome to come back on the show anytime you want.
Hey, gracias, Carlos. Un honor. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Echarle ganas.
God bless and continued success. And that's a wrap. Thanks so much for listening and watching. Don't forget to rate this episode of Carlos Tonight. We'd really appreciate it. Carlos Tonight is written and produced by yours truly, Carlos Correa. Big thank you to Skin Gales for creating my theme song. You can check out new episodes of the podcast Wednesdays wherever you get your podcasts, including Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play, Amazon, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. You can also check out other episodes on our website. That's carlostonight.com.